All right, well, the year is 1900. Okay, and two friends, Joshua and Jamie, decide that they're going to go out and play a round of golf. All right, so they go out. They're really similarly skilled golf players. Okay, they both hit the ball about the same distance, and so they decide that they want to make the game a little bit more interesting. So they put a little wager, they put a little bet on the game, they put a little money on it to up the stakes a little bit. All right, and so the year is 1900, and so Joshua is getting ready to tee up on the first hole, and he pulls out his new shiny smooth golf balls. The golf balls in the year 1900 were all smooth. All right, and so he puts the golf ball down on the tee. It's the first hole. He tees off, and the ball goes straight into the water. And it's the first hole, and so he starts to become really demoralized because it's the first hole, and he's already in the water. And so his game starts to go down, and he finds himself hole after hole shooting it into the water, into the water, into the water. And so Joshua and Jamie, they get to the 12th hole, and Joshua's reaching into his bag for yet another new ball because he just hit into the water yet again. And he's reaching into his bag, and the bag is empty. He's out of new golf balls. And so he looks over at his friend Jamie, and he says, "Jamie, can I get one of your golf balls?" And Jamie looks back, and he's like, "What?" He's like, "We got money riding on this thing." He's like, "I'm not giving you one of mine." He's like, "Why don't you reach into the other pocket of your bag and pull out one of the practice driving range balls that you've got?" And so Joshua reaches around to the other pocket of his golf bag, and he pulls out one of the driving range balls, one of the practice range balls. And this ball is cut up, and it's dirty. It's got grass and dirt all over it. It's got cuts. It's got bruises. It's got dents. This ball has really been worn and torn. It's been used over and over and over again. And so he sets this used ball down on the tee. And Jamie had already teed off on the 12th hole, and he's sitting about 180 yards straight up the fairway. And so Joshua puts this broken ball down on the tee, and he tees off, and it goes 300 yards straight down the fairway. And Joshua and Jamie are so confused because, like I said, they both hit the ball about the same distance every single time. How did Joshua hit this ball so much further? And so they finish out the round. They finish out the final 6 holes. And for the final 6 holes, Joshua continually outdrives Jamie hole after hole after hole using this beat up, dented, bruised ball. And this discovery ended up changing the way that golf balls were made. So you see, like I said, they were originally made smooth. And what they found was that these balls that were imperfect, that had these dents in them, traveled further. And so that's why now today, if you go to the store and you buy a golf ball, there's all these little dimples around the ball. You know, I'm not a physics major by any means, but what these dimples do is it creates this drag around the ball. And it creates this turbulence with the air that allows the ball to travel further. You see, in life, it's our bruises. It's our cuts. It's our wear and tear. It's our dirt. It's our dents that actually allows us to travel much further. It's the rough side of the mountain that prepares us for extraordinary destinations. They say that hardships prepare ordinary people for extraordinary destinations. And so I don't know what you're struggling with. I don't know what's going on in your life. But I know that you're probably trying to cover up your dirt and your cuts and your scrapes and your bruises and your dents. But instead, you should actually be embracing those things because it's going to allow you to travel so much further than somebody who has it much easier. And so I want to talk to you this morning about a few people who have used that rough side of the mountain, who have used their setbacks and their failures, their bruises, their dents, to travel so much further. I want to talk to you this morning about Theodore Gazelle. You see, his first book was rejected by 26 different publishers. 26 different publishers. It would have been very easy for him to say, "You know what, I tried. Nobody likes my book." But most of us are pretty thankful that Dr. Seuss kept trying. And most of us have all read one of Dr. Seuss's books. Albert was mentally slow. He couldn't talk until he was 5 years old. He was expelled from school. Yet here in school, we spend a lot of time talking about Einstein. Ben was called stupid by his teachers. They made him sit at the back of the classroom. And eventually, Dr. Carson became the first neurosurgeon to ever successfully separate Siamese twins at the skull. And you might have seen Dr. Carson a couple years ago running for president. Mrs. Winfrey was told that she was unfit for television. Yet most of us have probably seen Oprah on TV.
Mr. Krause, your visitor is in the high school office. Mr. Krause.
Thomas was told that he was stupid and that he would never amount to anything. And Mr. Edison ended up creating over 1,000 different things, including the light bulb. This is David Sanders, and David Sanders' chicken recipe was rejected by more than 1,000 different restaurants. Yet most of us have eaten at KFC. All Sutro wanted was a job at this car company called Toyota. And Toyota said, nope, sorry, you're not fit to work here. So what Sutro Honda did was he went out and created his own company. And that person at Toyota that said, Sutro, you can't work here, probably made one of the worst decisions in Toyota's history, because Honda went on to create this brand that would be their biggest competitor. Henry failed and failed and failed at creating so many businesses, but eventually, Mr. Ford figured it out. Walt was fired from the newspaper that he worked at for lacking creativity. Yet, Mr. Disney's creativity brings in billions of people to his parks and his movies every single year. Steve was fired from the company that he created. Until eventually, 10 years later, Apple begged Steve Jobs to come back and save them from bankruptcy. I told you about Mr. Edison earlier. This group was told that they had no future in show business. Yet the person who told the Beatles that they had no future in show business probably found himself with no future in show business. Stephen was rejected from the University of Southern California 3 times and eventually dropped out of college. Yet, we've all probably seen Jaws and Jurassic Park and many of the other movies that he's created. Paul's audition tape was rejected by everyone and said that there was no way that he would ever make it in the music industry. Yet all those people who told Bono and U2 that they weren't going to make it probably are kicking themselves in the rear. Winston failed at every election that he ran for until eventually becoming Prime Minister of Britain. And Mr. Churchill was one of the key people in taking down Hitler and the Nazis. Abraham failed at everything. Business, elections. Eventually, President Lincoln got a few things right. You see, the rough side of the mountain actually prepares you for incredible destinations. Again, I don't know what you're struggling with. I don't know what cards you've been dealt. And I'm not saying that the cards you've been dealt are fair. But we all have a choice. those dents, those bruises, those cuts and scrapes, that wear and tear can either be a part of your excuse or your story. All these people could have used this as their excuse, and you said, "Know what? I got rejected. It's not going to work."
Enough. This is an announcement for you.
But
Those
instead,
of
they use
you
it
that
as a
go
part
to
of their story.
chorus first hour, do not go to the chorus room. Please report to the music appreciation room, room 96. You must bring an AR book or something to do. So once again, first hour chorus students, please report to the music appreciation room, room 96. Bring an AR book. Thank you.
Is it going to be a part of your story, or is it going to be your excuse? You have the power to choose. Go win the day.